You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder, for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. It's Tyler. It's LPR. It's been a bit of a time since we last met. I didn't even know if any of you were in here. I didn't give you notifications of this. It's a Sunday. Hang on. And welcome. That's all I have to say. Well, let's get into it. We're going to talk about a few things. One, California fires have been happening all over the place. I hope you are doing well. I hope you had a good New Year's. Hope you had a good Christmas. And we're going to talk about a few things here today. It's a Sunday. And let's see if I get things even set up. Get going. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about California fires. What's the situation? How does it impact you, even if you're not in California? How does it impact me, since I am in California, but I'm in Northern California? I'm not in the fires, but I am concerned. Also, Patrick Bet-David, H-1B visa issue came out. There were some other things. I started to looking into how he got his money. And is it a scam? Is it a scam? Are multi-level marketing situations a scam? He comes out, CoffeeZilla did a breakdown of it, and then he went on CoffeeZilla. This is like 3 years ago. And did he give any explanation as to this? I'm still on the Patrick Bet-David being a scam artist point of view. And you may not like that. Too bad. I do like it, and I'm going to talk about it more and more because we need to understand where people come from. And just because he gives a great love for you now, he puts a platform. And by the way, I've had trouble. I put out there, and you can look at this. I've talked about it before. I put a question to Dave Smith in his members section about like, hey, look, why are we defending Patrick Bet-David? He hires Cuomo. How do you support that? And Dave kind of hem and hawed, but Robbie the Fire Bernstein, his co-host, had a hissy fit about it. I did a whole breakdown. The more I think about this, the more pathetic I think it is, because now they go on in there and they're talking about Patrick Cuomo, who got hired by Patrick Bet-David. Did I say that right the first time? They talk about him and they're just appalled by it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you defending Patrick Bet-David hiring this loser who's still going on these pathetic rants? And then talked about Zuckerberg and all these other things. And I'm just like, hey, it's all the same shit. You can't defend these people. And so I got to a place where Dave Smith and Robbie the Fire kind of annoyed me. I'm like, you complain about everything except for when it comes into your space. And it's your big bro out there, Patrick Bet-David, who you get on the shows with, and he throws money. And by the way, I think his multi-level marketing scheme is exactly pitched people like you, Dave Smith, Robbie the Fire, and now you think it's this whole cool situation, right? You're in the cool kids table, And so your whole premise and your whole issues just dissipate. Just dissipate. Don't let them dead. Don't let Smith and Robbie bully you, counselor. No, they're not. They're not bothering me. They're not even bullying me. I watched this show last week and I was like annoyed. I was annoyed with it. When I asked a simple question to them previously about like, hey, Patrick McDavid hires this motherfucker and now you're completely up in arms about this whole situation. You don't even understand how he's not prosecuted. You don't understand how Fauci's not prosecuted, but you seem to think, Robbie, the fire, matter of fact, said, go fuck yourself, Tyler, when I brought this up, right? So, Jordan, welcome. This is an odd weekend day video we're doing here. I'm going to try to get this other camera going here. I'm sorry, I started things up before I should have. And I hope everyone's doing fine. I hope you're having a good weekend. Let's see if I could get this going here. And we're going to, so anyway, I get worked up about this stuff. But part of it is just like, I don't know. Do I have a problem with people kind of like being, let's start this here. Okay. Do I have a problem with people kind of acting like, I don't know, bowing down to your one party or your one person since, he's, there we go. I think we've got everything going here. Camera 2 is in session. All right, we'll get this going here. There we go. It's been a while. I had a few days off. Work, I've been busy at work. I've been busy at my job. And with that, I did Tower Gang producing. And I didn't get a show in this last week. My wife and I, the week before we were doing stuff. This one we're doing stuff. It's just life is busy. But I do have stuff I want to go over here. So Nick Rekieta, as an example, I think we talked about it. I don't know if we did. His house went into foreclosure. I think he sold the adjoining house to pay for this other one. It's just more shit. And I don't believe anything he says about anything here. So that's one aspect. Nick Rekieta, H-1B visa. We're going to talk about that with Patrick McDavid. We're going to get into that real quick. Also, the California stuff, Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom. It's bullshit. And look, do I have a lot of problems and do I have concerns about California? Yes, I do. I live in this state, right? But where Pacific Palisades is, it's down in LA. I'm in Northern California, but it's down in LA. These people are staunch blue people. And by the way, this also goes to Luigi Mangione, which is like all these people that are up in arms about like, oh, these insurance people are evil and he killed them and he's our hero. Okay. How did you feel about the insurance companies during COVID? Okay. I, for one, wasn't a big fan of that, but you personally were probably in cahoots. A lot of these lefties that are up probably with Mangione, they were in cahoots with the pharmaceutical companies, the insurance companies during this time. Now they're suddenly think that they're the bad guy. It's you have no principles. Okay, that's part of it. What's the next thing I was thinking of? You got my head all. We went out to eat. We went out and we had a few drinks. We had it's 5:15 here on the West Coast, and we already did we did good time. So anyway, there's that. Then there's the Southern California. A lot of these people there in Pacific Palisades, they were, I'm sure they're fine with that. And then they vote for the people that they vote for, and then they get the shit that they get. Okay, and unfortunately, Gavin Newsom, if he thought the fires were actually Trump, he probably would have resolved this situation long ago. But he didn't, because he's a piece of shit. And so is Karen Bass, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And basically, my thing is like, how does this impact me? Well, being in Southern California, other than the fact that in April I have to go down there for a wedding, it doesn't impact me at all, except for the insurance issue, and that does impact me because. I'll just give you a quick rundown here quickly, which is I have State Farm. They not only take care of our auto, but they take care of our house. And, you're insured with your mortgage and your house. And earlier last year, they said, I think it was in January or so, they said, hey, you're going to have to pay for your entire, it was like a 9-month period of your auto insurance up front instead of making monthly payments. Now, I have 5 cars on insurance, 3 kids, a wife, and myself on insurance. It's not cheap. The youngest is 18. So 18, 19, 21-year-olds on the insurance. The oldest 24-year-olds, he's taking care of himself. So it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. And so they're like, hey, you have to pay for the whole nut up front. It was like a 9-month period. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I plunked down a big chunk of cash, and they were like, oh, we didn't expect that. Okay, well, tell you what, then, since you did pay for this, and we have you through November, or September it was at the time, we're going to do an audit on your account. And I'm like, fine. So they get all this information about each of the cars, all the kids, and we never make claims. And then they just said, oh, by the way, after this audit, we're just not covering you. So September, you're going to have to cover your, get different coverage. So we went out, we found other coverage. And at the time, we were also trying to package it in with our house. And a few places like, oh, based on where you live and fire danger, we do not insure you. Now, they dropped us for auto, so we got auto, which was much more expensive with a different company, but we do have it. And then we still have, fire and whatever for our house, for our house. So we still are covered, but I'm concerned. So my concern with the Southern California issue is specifically concerned about insuring my house going forward and how that's going to be. Do I foresee a problem? Yes. And part of this is, look, you shouldn't, insurance companies, you can hate them all you want, but for the most part, it's a situation where they are trying to plan out to where they are covered. They get a lot of money in from all the insurers paying the premiums. And then for the money that they pay out is usually they want it to be less than the money that they receive in. That's how a business works, right? It makes sense. So to make this profitable for them, they don't want to insure certain people in certain areas, right? On the coast, in high fire places that have possibilities of earthquakes, a lot of damage. That's the places they don't want to have insured. So, but with the state and different places, they like force these companies into. So they're set basically to we either insure them on places we're likely going to be paying out, or we just don't insure at all until they remove themselves from the country, from the state. I get that, right? Now, there's a lot of other problems here. There's what's called a FAIR program in California. My law partner, as an example, he lives in a place. He literally lives like 3 houses down is the fire station. Sounds good. He should be able to be insurable. He's not. So he has to go through the state program called the FAIR program and be insured for fire there. My sister, same with their house. They have insurance through their normal carrier, but not for fire. It's through this FAIR program, which is much more expensive. And it's, kind of taxing. But it's because you're living in places that are dangerous for the most part, to some extent. Sometimes the insurance company is just like, I'm done with the state. I want to be out of the state. I don't want to be in there anymore. You're a piece of shit to work with, and we're not going to be involved. I get it. I get that completely. So the state mismanagement has a lot to do with this. Then you also have the situation. I mean, we go back to, I want to say 2016, somewhere around there. Gavin Newsom is running for governor of California. Carly Fiorina was running as a Republican against him. And her big issue at the time was water management. Why? Because the state of California was going through a fucking drought. Gavin Newsom specifically came in, he got elected, she did not. She was talking though at the time about all this runoff, right? Just billions and millions of gallons running out from the, we have the Sierra fucking Nevadas right here, right? Matter of fact, if you look online, Elon just posted a thing out here. It's Kevin Kiley, state senator, showing not even 3 miles from my house, Folsom Lake, draining out, just all this water running out down the American River, through to the, to the ocean here. And it's showing just millions of gallons rushing out. And he's like, hey, we're not even doing this. Elon Musk, retweets this situation. Yes. So you're not storing water. Okay. So this situation comes out in 2016. There was a drought at the time. Water's just running out of these lakes off this fucking Sierra Nevadas, which you get a lot of snow, skiing, right? Sierra Tahoe, Heavenly Valley, Squaw, Kirkwood. I mean, these are these are just huge mountain ski hills right up here, not too far from where I live, which we get a ton of snow, and then it's runoff. But they're not storing any of this water. They're not making reservoirs, even though this was a giant campaign issue back in 2016. It came about again in 2020-ish or so with a recall, which Gavin Newsom also won handily because of this state. And people are like, hey, you live there. I'm sorry about your complaining about it. No, I'm talking about this, okay? It's a big deal in everywhere because people need to kind of get their shit together with this. And so anyway, this issue of water and water retention should be a big deal. Matter of fact, Gavin Newsom, then after he gets elected, he institutes days you can water your yard, right? And you can report your neighbors to this. If you're not watering, certain block numbers, you gotta do it on the Monday and Wednesday. And you're only allowed to do it on those days. And I said, fuck you. And I did it when I wanted to, because that's the kind of yard we need to have. And I'm also like, hey, now you've got time to prepare for this. Figure the fuck out what you need to do with all this water stuff. Save up for a rainy day. It's like I've had friends who worked in the mortgage business, right? And they worked in this and they're killing it before the 08 crash. And then 08 comes along and they're like, what the fuck? Well, it's like you don't necessarily expect to have this salary all the time, especially when you're working in that kind of industry. And maybe you prepare for the days when shit's gonna hit the fan. That's also what you do if you're a public official. We've had Gavin Newsom way back 13, 14 years ago having a big conversation with Adam Carolla about the homeless. I did a whole podcast with that with Brian McWilliams. We broke down the whole interview, and he's like, "That's my big issue," as he's the mayor of San Francisco. And then piece of shit comes in, and homelessness is out of control in this state, and you're not doing anything to fix it, right? All you do is complain and complain and complain, and DEI is a big issue. Anyway, so these are issues that come up upon us in this state. And, I complain about it because you are literally acquiring people in this country, in this state here, taking over that are just hopelessly incompetent. And by the way, I think we dodged a bullet necessarily. It's kind of with Kamala Harris. A prodigy of this state, a product of this state, a prodigy in this state, a product of this state, now trying to be on the national level with Biden, now running for president and losing. And you can see this just with a microcosm of the way she did her campaign, which was how many, $1 billion, I think it was what it was. And she comes out $20 million in debt afterwards. Okay, consequences don't mean shit to these people, and this is the problem. Now, my biggest issue and concern with the state of California is you have all these blue, these are people are Smurf level blue down there in Pacific Palisades in the LA area. They hire literally a communist sympathizer, Castro acolyte as the mayor, and the DEI product that goes through with the fire, team is unbelievable. And what is it going to do? They're going to say, hey, look, I need more government involvement. We need to bail this out. Sometimes you don't need to be bailing out because the consequences of your actions, of your voting needs to be played out in real life and real consequences for this. However, I do say this, right? And I saw, what was the fucking lady? It's a congressman. She's a black lady. She's a total dumb fuck. She came out and basically said, these people weren't paying enough in taxes. Now, that is not true. The liberals in that area, they do pay their fair share of taxes. So when you do that, and then, as your ANCAP, your libertarian, whatnot, and you kind of come back and you're like, look, shouldn't be dependent on the government, whatever. I get it. However, when you are in this state and your property tax, if you paid off your entire mortgage, you still pay property taxes to the value of your house. Now, I will say this. When you buy a house, they reassess your property, and that's you pay a percentage of your taxes based on what your property is valued at. But they don't keep reassessing it, and your taxes necessarily changed until you buy or sell the house. This can actually have an effect on your property if it's burned down, and then they rebuild it and they build it back up. That I'm not sure about, as far as I'm not sure what prop number it is that dictates the property tax issue here in California. I could look into that. However, for the most part, your property taxes, though, you're paying that. Even if you don't owe anything on your mortgage, you're still paying a hefty amount of property taxes on the value of your house each year. And these people are paying a ton of property taxes in Palisades in the LA area. You're talking about, you're looking in there and people are seeing the Zillow, just a breakdown of like, the communities that are destroyed. This is $1 million homes over and over and over and over, right? It's a lot of money. So that money is going somewhere. So I do get it, even on the liberal side where you're like, look, I'm paying my money to the government. What is it being used for? Oh, it's being helped for homeless. Well, there's been an issue there where Gavin Newsom, the mayor, the governor of California, spent over $24 billion on the homeless, which went 0 places at all. They did an issue, and I'll break down some of the stuff here in, I want to say 2016 or so, a proposition that was supposed to start to build reservoirs. 0 have been built as well. So, these people are mismanaging like out of control, and then they're blaming everybody else. What I would hope, and it's never going to happen, is a lawsuit against the people actually responsible for some of this, which is, you saw the reservoir in Pacific Palisades. I'm sure you've seen the video of that. It's completely empty. No backup to this. So when they're out there and these firefighters are out there trying to pull a hose and, stick it onto a fire hydrant and there's nothing coming out, it's because there's no pressure, because there's no reservoir up there, okay? Plus, during COVID, these motherfuckers also were canning a bunch of firefighters for not giving the COVID vaccine. Okay, what do you say about that? Then Gavin Newsom goes on the news and he's like, oh, this is a local issue. And I'll play a video of this. This is a local issue. I'm the governor of the state. And I'm like, listen here, motherfucker. You, during COVID, acted like a complete fucking dictator, telling everybody what you can do in this state. You put you put in there emergency provisions, totally controlling the local governments from a state position. Don't talk to me now that the state, local side, I wish the local sides were in control of everything. And there's a lot of incompetence. And yes, you can point to that too, but you don't get to get it out of this situation. And he's going on a podcast, Save America, complaining about this. Trump is saying, Trump isn't the best, but what Trump can do is put a lot of light on this. You remember back in 16, somewhere around there or maybe it was 2020, it was when Trump was still the president, maybe 18, the city of, or the area of Northern California, Paradise, California, just burned the fuck down. And Trump came out here to visit and he's like, hey, there's a lot of things you can do. Well, none of those things were done. So you can still complain about Trump making complaints, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with everyone pulling the triggers. And I'll say one more thing, and I know I have a clip here, and maybe I'll get to it, which is people like, are complaining about, oh, their house got burned down. James Woods goes on to the news and he's bawling his head off about, oh, I lost my house. Yeah, it sucks, okay? Mel Gibson went on Joe Rogan and he was, he'd lost his house while he's literally recording a podcast with Joe Rogan. Now, James Woods, I have some sympathy for you. You're a nice Republican, you're a conservative, but there's also tweets out there where you're saying about the people of Gaza, kill them all. How do you juxtaposition that with me trying to feel sorry for you losing a house when you're literally advocating for the slaughter of 3 million people for doing, all 3 million are guilty, or is this Hamas guilty? So it's a little bit sorry for me. I'm trying to have some sympathy. I don't really have any sympathy. My biggest concern of this fire is twofold. One, I'm going to be fucked over trying to find an Airbnb for the wedding I'm going to in Southern California in April. And two, that my insurance is going to be affected by this. I'm sorry, that's about the extent to what I feel for a lot of these people in Southern California and how I feel about it. This state's just a deplorable, whatever. Let's get into it. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Let's read some chat here. Let's see what we have. Don't let them, Great, that's great news. They could really use a wedding. I had to use an East Coast insurance broker to find coverage after State Farm dumped us on vehicles and home. That's what Darcy said. Yeah, I just really feel sorry for you there, especially, like our company. They just didn't want to be in California anymore. It was State Farm. We ended up getting AAA. It cost us a bit more, especially with, you can imagine, a teenage boy. With a point on his record, the motherfucker. There is no way to remake reservoirs. That is lost technology from a different non-liberal civilization. There's no way to remake the reservoirs. I don't know about that. Maybe I don't totally understand. I mean, you can totally you can make reservoirs. I mean, there's reservoirs to be had. There's reservoirs out there. You can do this something. It's not technology that's beyond us. It's not technology that can't be done or something that, you can't do. Like draining the reservoir in Palisades, you can track the levels, the old cover when they drain it on the Google Earth. Yeah. That would be a situation where I think you should be able to come into this and file a lawsuit against these people. It's never going to happen. I'm sure they're going to have some sort of immunity. It's annoying, but it needs to be. The roof is on fire. Okay, thanks, AG Bias. Dwayne says, as a retired maintenance superintendent of a drinking water treatment plant, interesting. I suspect the pumping capacity and distribution system was never meant for these kinds of fires. Absolutely correct. And by the way, I don't know all the details of this, right? You're hearing a lot of blame. You're hearing a lot of things to go around. I believe that's, there's going to be some of that. A lot of this has to do with, one, building a house on an area that was never meant for us to have a house, right? Or you shouldn't be even able to insure it, but they are. And I think that's probably a lot of the government coming in and saying you have to insure these people. Well, I mean, if it's uninsurable, it's outrageous, you shouldn't be building on a certain area, right? But a lot of it has to do with forest management. You don't look there and it's not like, oh, there's a private forest. If it was a private forest around there, I imagine whoever owned that would be like, let's say it's a big company and they have something going there. They would instinctively try to do something to make sure that they are not going to be liable if a forest fire starts on their property and burns outward, right? You've got to be concerned. So you're going to do something. You're going to clear it. You're going to do whatever. You're going to clean the underbrush. But the Sierra Club, the environmentalists, they don't allow this to happen. Dwayne says 1.1 million gallon reservoir is only a drop in the bucket. I understand. And by the way, it's not a be all end all except for it would still probably be having some water pressure. It would still be able to, when you hook up to a hydrant, you're still going to have something coming out rather than nothing. Here's the problem, which is when you have this and you don't have any pressure at all, you don't have anything coming out of a hydrant, and you see a reservoir being emptied, you are at least going to say, but if this, and I will say this, you're not then necessarily fighting a fire that is as vast as it is. Maybe you're able to put it out with the reservoir that you have. If you at least have this infrastructure in place. And by the way, this is kind of the shit I'm talking about, which is I'm not all for public, daddy. And you're going to see this. You're going to see a lot of this, which is, Gavin Newsom now saying, President, Biden has sent me in a text within 36 hours saying we're going to fully reimburse everybody. It's like, oh, daddy's here to save me. And some of these people need to have consequences for this, right? And you're going to see a lot more people like crying out to. But once again, if you're at least, what do you want the government to do, right? I think it shouldn't even exist. But if you're going to have it, you're going to have vital infrastructure for certain things. And one is this kind of shit. And by the way, this isn't something that just happened to the state of California and they're in a state of shock and be like, holy shit, we just went through a drought. We didn't have this. We haven't even thought about this. No. This has gone on for years and years. And this is something they've been made well aware of. I just established it well back from the 2016 election when Carly Fiorina made this one of her principal parts of her, case against trying to run for governor against Gavin Newsom at the time. We were in a fucking drought at the time then. So you're concerned about it, but you've come out of a drought. We've had record snowfall, rain in this area. Matter of fact, to the point that 2 years ago, okay, the 2023 taxes we just filed, 2022, we were able to extend automatically in my area because of so much rain and storms that we had, okay? So it was to the point where you don't even have to file an extension for your taxes to be filing them in April and extend them out till October. This county I lived in, Sacramento County, automatically gave me an extension to file my taxes till October based on the storms that we had during the year. So we've had a lot of rainfall. Okay. So you can't necessarily give that. Biden only happened to be in town. Okay. I don't know what that means. Pumps were shut down for fear of sparks of power lines. one of the problems with tanks and pump systems for the elevation changes in water pressure. Yeah, I imagine that's we have massive generators to run pumps in the event of electrical failure. Oh yeah, we are in a Republican stronghold. Yeah, by the way, once again, I'm just reiterating that these are not issues that are new, right? This is a big state, California. Everybody's known about fires and fire problems and potential in California. So with that in mind, nothing the fuck got done, okay? Yeah, I get worked up about this. I don't know. Anybody else? Okay. I don't know that I set everything up how I should. So let's take a look here. I wanted to, by the way, and then I'm going to talk about a few things, which is, this is Dave Smith here. I don't want to watch that at all. Sorry, that's Dave Smith coming at you. Okay, let's go to CoffeeZilla. Let's go to this. But before I actually break down, all right, sorry, let me break down this. Before I break down a lot of this, I want to go to the Patrick Bet-David and his defense of the H-1B visa issue before we even get going here. So let's see if I can transfer this over. All right, there we go. Okay, let's take a look here, and it's Patrick Bet-David talking about, I don't know if you remember, what's his name? By the way, I want to go back to the chat. I know you guys are saying some good stuff there. They hired 2% more rainbow firefighters, reducing the overall LAFD workforce. I'll talk about that. I'll get back to that, Nico. Thank you for the great comment. I'll get back to that. I'm going to play this Patrick Bet-David, and then, man, I say that, and then the reality is we really should probably talk about some of this Karen Bass shit. Let's play this. Let's go to a different spot. Let's go to let's go to this. This is an interesting thing. This is Karen Bass. She became the mayor of California. This is a big video here with Glenn Beck. And by the way, if I don't get to all the Patrick Bet-David stuff, so be it. Maybe we'll get later this week. I don't have court at all, so I could probably talk about it. But let's talk about this.
I want to take.
Glenn Beck played this segment on his show this last week, and I thought it was actually very interesting. And he talks about and I think this is something we need to always keep in mind, which is when people come to prominence, you know, there's a backdrop to these people, and who are they? And, you know, are they, I'm sorry, I know the word communist, Dave Smith had a big issue kind of talking about that. Saying, you know, we shouldn't really talk about, you know, whether they're communist or not, or at least that label. But there is something to be said about this. So let's talk about this. This is Karen Bass. She is the mayor of LA, and I think it's important to kind of go through this. Let's talk about it.
Take you back to November 7th, 1983. Ronald Reagan is in office. Do you know the date, November 7th, 1983? It's a night that echoes in the halls of American history. It is the date that a radical group known as M19 bombed the north wing of the United States Capitol. They bombed it. It went off. You don't know that date, November 7th, 1983? I mean, isn't that the day that democracy almost died? It was worse than the Civil War. Oh, no, sorry, that was January 6th, which all of us know, January 6th. Why not November 7th, 1983? Now, the group that did it, M19, claimed they were fighting imperialism. What they really were fighting for was the threat to the foundations of democracy. These were radicals. Now, why am I bringing this up today? Because if you're going to understand today and the future, you have to understand the past. And one name is out right now that people are talking about that you need to understand who this individual is. This individual is currently the mayor of Los Angeles. Her name is Karen Bass. Now, this is the same mayor that was over in Ghana. And when she got back with the fires, she was asked, you know, do you have any comment? You were over in Ghana. Is this dereliction of duty? What were you doing? Do you have any message to the people of Los Angeles? Listen to this exchange.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
She's standing in the airport.
Absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Now she's standing, you know that part that, where it bends to go right into the airplane, right as you're going down the ramp, and then it bends into the airplane. She's standing right at that bend. She was actually looking through the window of the glass at security because she gets special treatment. She gets to not go through the airport. She can just go down those stairs, and a car will pick her up and whisk her away. So she's...
No, I want to say this real quick, which is, I'm sure as you are, when you're becoming a mayor of a big city like this, you're not thinking of the whole fucking place burning down as a consequence. But I've reiterated this from the start, which is there are certain imperatives that are in place in California, and everyone has heard about this. Trump brought it to the fore, which is fire danger. And if you go back and you look at the history and you know anything about your state, you know that there's dangers of fire in this fucking place, okay? The whole city, and I think Glenn talked, well, actually, probably in a different segment, talks about the whole city of San Francisco fire of 1909, I think it was. Of 1906, burning the whole fucking place to the ground. Okay, this happens out here. We had the Paradise fires a few years ago up here in Northern California. Big fires, LA. It happens all the time. I knew it's an old cycling coach that lost his whole house down in Southern California, 10, 15 years ago. It happens. So you're becoming an official, an elected official of a big prominent city. You have to go through the safeguards and what it is. And you look at that thing there, the conversation, those harsh questions. Elon Musk says you're incompetent. Yeah, you're a business owner. You've got to immediately assess the risks. What are the dangers? And then what are you going to do to mitigate them? Make sure the big catastrophic issues don't fucking ruin your political career. But the ruining of the political career is because catastrophic issues happen to people in your city, okay? Now, I think these people are more fearful of a DEI episode happening. You're hiring the wrong person. Maybe a white supremacist, a white man of privilege gets into some sort of situation and embarrasses you. That's more detrimental than your whole fucking city burning down. But I digress. Let's keep going here.
She's standing there looking at security like, open the door. When are you going to open the door? Finally, she just looks through and shakes her head and gets instruction, just go the other way. So she leaves. Now, what does she have to say? Well, not a lot. But let's understand who she is and why she doesn't have a lot to say. Karen Bass built her career as a community activist. Oh, there's a code word. We now understand what it means. The activism is a polite term now for her history. She's an activist. Well, okay. Her history is tied to radicalism, Marxism, and a dangerous ideology that bled from the fringes into the mainstream here recently. So let's start with the facts on her. Back in the 1970s, Karen Bass was not just a casual traveler to Cuba. Were there any? When she went to Cuba many, many times, she was a devoted participant in what's called the Venceramos Brigade. What is that? I've never heard of it. Well, it's a Marxist training program directly tied to Fidel Castro's regime. Between 1969 and today, this group has sent hundreds of young Americans to Cuba, not for a vacation, not for cultural exchange, but for radicalization. You don't join the Venceramos Brigade because you want to learn, what is that? What is the emoji with the salsa dancer? Can I use that if I join the Venceramos? That's not what that's about. It's not about good Cuban coffee. You join because you're a confirmed Marxist-Leninist. A Los Angeles police investigator testified before Congress about this group. He said members were trained in guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and bomb making. These are not idealists. They're insurgents in training. Karen Bass, she wasn't just a participant. She was a leader. She visited Cuba repeatedly, they say every 6 months. We could verify 8 times. She praised Fidel Castro, the dictator of Cuba, who was imprisoning dissenters, left a legacy of poverty and fear. In fact, this is not just her youth. She's still there. When Castro died, she was one of them who called his death a great loss to the people of Cuba. Really? A loss to the same people who risked their lives freeing his regime, trying to get out of Cuba? This is Karen Bass. She's the Los Angeles mayor, one of the largest cities in the United States of America. So let's fast forward to the president. 4 million people, a city on fire, literally and figuratively. Wildfires raging across the city. Firefighters begging for resources like water. Mayor Bass had other priorities. Instead of supporting her own fire department, she cut their funding. Where's the money going? To NGOs, non-government institutions. That will be understood. NGOs, non-governmental institutions or organizations, that will come to know, that's code for leftist activists most times. And she gave the firefighting money to homeless NGOs who are fighting for the rights of illegal immigrants. Oh. Now they're packaging that as she gave money to fight homelessness. Okay. Well, homelessness is a crisis, but let's not kid ourselves. Los Angeles has poured billions of dollars into solving this problem, and it ends up in tent cities, open-air drug markets, streets lined with garbage and human waste, chaos spreading. And wait, what does she do? She defunds the people who are fighting fires. That's not, you don't take money away from the firefighters in an area of the country where it's known for firefighting. They don't even have enough firefighters. Okay. First responders, the people that run into buildings. Instead, she's in a different building in a different hemisphere. She's in Ghana, attending the swearing-in ceremonies of the president of Ghana, who I don't know anything about. Stu, I asked to look it up and maybe give us an update here in a second. So her city is burning, and Mayor Bass was thousands of miles away, rubbing elbows at a presidential inauguration in Ghana. Is that leadership or is that dereliction of duty? I mean, you can go, but was she on taxpayer funds going to Ghana? Why was she there? Anyway, let's go back to the radical history for a minute, because it didn't end with the Venceramos Brigade. M19, the same group that bombed the Capitol in 1983, had direct ties to Cuba and the brigade. Remember, she's a leader in this. Now, Susan Rosenberg, she was one of the women that traveled to Cuba and returned as a domestic terrorist, shared the same ideological roots as Karen Bass. Now, I'm not saying Karen Bass planted the bomb or anything, but let's be clear. She was part of exactly the same radical network. She called Fidel Castro charismatic. She praised the dictator who was brutalizing his people. She aligned herself with a movement that believed in revolutionary violence, including the bombing of the Capitol. Now, she hasn't reformed. She hasn't come out and said, oh my gosh, have I learned my lesson? That was all really bad. I was a stupid kid. No, she's held on to those things. And in fact, she was considered a front runner for the vice president under Joe Biden. Her record was so toxic, so troubling, that even the Democratic Party said, well, I don't, can we do that? When your Marxist roots are too bad, too heavy for the Democrats, the progressives in Washington, D.C. today, that says something. So here we are, 40 years since the Capitol bombing, something that people just don't remember because, well, the media didn't make it into a big deal. And the ideology that fueled that bombing is alive and well and sitting in the mayor's office in Los Angeles. Karen Bass is just using new words. She's fighting for justice, for equity. She's fighting for the people. But what has her leadership actually brought? Homeless encampments, not housing, tent cities, fires burning out of control, fire department stretched to its limits, millions are funneled to political pet projects, and all the while, the city is spiraling deeper and deeper into chaos. November 7th, 1983. I want you to remember that date, because the seeds of radicalism planted then are still bearing fruit today. And Karen Bass? Well, she's not just a relic of that radical past. She, in many ways, is a torchbearer. By the way, I got tipped off by this by a short documentary I saw on Karen Bass from Errol Weber. Errol Weber is a very smart guy who did a great job on this. We tried to contact him to get him to tell this story on the air today. We didn't get a call back. He lives in Los Angeles, and we hope and pray that we just missed each other.
Okay, so kind of an idea there. Look, there's subversive people in this country And she seems to be part of this situation, right? And I just wanted to kind of break down this fascination with Cuba brought me to a book I read recently, and I will at some point do a whole show on it, but it's D.B. Cooper. It was a guy that hijacked a plane in 1971. The idea is that they never caught him. They found a little bit of the money out in I think the Columbia River in 1980. But another person basically did the exact same thing in 6 months later in Utah. But what was happening at the time was a lot of people were. And I'm going to get here. Here's the book. Here's the online book. And this is chapter 6, Deja Vu, another Salt Lake hijacking in 72. But people were hijacking planes in the 70s and going to Cuba, right? And it was a fascinating thing. And here's a whole breakdown here. Where did I want to get there? This is kind of I wanted to read a section here. Beware, warning, enter at your own risk. There should be red flags flying in the Salt Lake International Airport earlier that windy afternoon with bold inscriptions stating that while airplanes and air terminals had been besieged for the past several years by threats and bombs of close call, very little was being done to protect passengers. By 1969, a brand new social phenomenon began dominating Walter Cronkite's 6 o'clock edition of the news. And again tonight was the way he had put it. Another American passenger plane on its way to Miami was taken over by 2 men and a woman purporting to be Cubans who forced it to land in Havana. So far, no one is injured and no ransom has been asked for. It should have been familiar. It happened 38 times in 1969. Imagine that. 38 times airlines were hijacked between the United States and Cuba. Buy a ticket to Miami and spend 3 glorious days in Havana, said the quipsters. Fly now, then the saying went. If you're caught, pay later. Most of the hijackers that year, the Justice Department told us, were unhappy Cubans, lonesome in their homeland. Another theory was that Castro himself rewarded his own people to embarrass the United States and leave the impression that the American system was coming undone. All, however, were not Cubans. Many were angry American boys who chose this form of protest against their country's policies at home and in Vietnam. On 9th of March, 1972, President Richard M. Nixon had ordered the immediate implementation of existing FAA security regulations on screening passengers and monitoring carry-on luggage. This included the use of magnometers, already available, being used only in a few of the country's larger air terminals. Earlier in 1970 and 71, many major airlines hired armed guards to ride their international flights and flew domestic flights, but to protect expensive cargo, not necessarily the passengers. By mid-1970s, sky marshals in teams of 2 pulled from the ranks of the Treasury Department and U.S. Customs, along with some military personnel and few FBI agents, could be found aboard flights or originating or passing through the risky terminals like Miami, Atlanta, Houston, New York City. But airlines were competing with each other for the 500,000 daily passengers and had taken the position that uniformed guards, body searchers, long waits, and ominous pieces of electronic equipment would only inconvenience the unnecessary frightened the honest traveler. True. By 10:30 p.m., agents were drifting back, having covered their assignments. As each has verbal report, it was clear that that John Harris was the prime suspect. So Callum was, at the time, he was the head of the FBI office in Salt Lake City. This John Harris was this guy that was kidnapping this plane. This is just a interlude in this story about a different guy named John McCrory, okay? And I'm reading this here because I found this part to be fascinating. Let's skip down here a bit. Flight 407 had now left Los Angeles, was on the ground in Dallas, and the agents at the airport looking for an opportunity to board the plane and subdue the hijacker. Western advised the FBI that if there were no opportunity at Dallas, then they would refuel the plane at Tampa before lifting off to Cuba. Callum had contacted the FAA in Washington, D.C. and made arrangements to patch a telephone line through to the plane on the ground in Tampa if necessary. Around 11 p.m., Callum called another conference of the case agents to order. We're almost out of time, Callum told them with quiet intensity. Somewhere along the way, we've missed something. This young man didn't just sit in his room belly aching about the Vietnam War and Nixon. He must have talked to people about it or written an article, a school paper, or even marched in a demonstration. Think of the demonstrations you've covered against the Vietnam War, campus activity groups, bombings, military sabotage, even minor ones. So my point here is, if you're in that group chat complaining about stuff, at some point it may come true, and someone does something in one of these psyops you see. He must have talked to the people about it, or he written an article, scoop, and march and demonstration. Think about the demonstrations you've covered against the Vietnam War, campus activist groups, bombings, military sabotage, even minor ones. Callum picked up the description sheet. Now, let's go over the details of his description carefully while everyone tries to visualize the appearance of this guy, a white male between 20 and 25 years of age. As the details went on, and so did the memory, Agent Bill Gearman's head jerked up. Boss, Gearman said to Callum, I interviewed a local kid about a year or two ago, a student at the University of Utah. He was in a demonstration against the Vietnam War. Let me review my closed files of the category in that category. Get on it, Callum noted. Take 3 or 4 men. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, we'll go down here a little bit it could be anyone's son, Mrs. Hanson. So they found his mom, and then she gets on the phone with him. And then they have someone get on the plane and say to him, basically, I'm on the phone with your mother, and, so anyway, he ends up landing in Cuba. And this is what he says. Seconds passed, then Adam's voice crackled at the brown box. I'm terribly sorry, Miss Callum. You and your men have done a heck of a job. That's and it's the handsome boy, all right. But he's out of the aisle again, cursing and waving that gun around. He told me to tell his mother it was too late to turn back now. Tell her I'll send her a postcard from Cuba, he said, if they let me. I remember the Michael Hansen case, mainly because in 1975, the United States government Department of Justice drew up a prisoner exchange treaty with Cuba, and Michael Lynn Hansen was one of the first to be released from a Cuban prison and sent back to the United States by Fidel Castro. Now, the reason I bring this up is because he made a whole issue, this guy did, to hijack a plane to then fly out to Cuba. Okay, he flew out to Cuba, he hijacked the plane, he flew to Cuba because he wanted this socialist communist paradise that Miss Bass wants in LA, and these horrible propositions that happen when the case happens. So he hijacks the plane, he's gonna go to his paradise, he does so, and in 1975, the US government is then trying to get him back in an exchange. My probation officers reconstructed the crime Hansen had committed and the 3 years he had spent locked in a Cuban prison. So he goes there, and then they fucking lock him in a prison. Originally, Hansen was housed with other young hijackers in a minimum security work camp just outside Havana. Disillusioned with Castro's communism, he was caught twice going over the fence. His next stop, maximum security, could have been his last stop, but for a well-received monthly check to the warden from his mother and father. Back in the U.S., Hansen was prosecuted for air piracy by his own government and sentenced to 10 years. Once on parole, he absconded, and for the next several months was a federal fugitive, arrested and convicted for robbery in the state of Oregon and for the escape in Fargo, North Dakota. He wasn't released from custody until 1987. Okay, so I don't know. Just a quick tangent there, talking about Karen Bass being involved in this deplorable communist group, and she's grown out of that. She still visits Cuba. She was in Ghana when this whole fire situation happened. These are just the type of, these people never grow up. She never had the opportunity to see the reality of her deplorable situation in, what the communist situation would actually be like. But that's exactly what this guy at least had to have. Now, let me go here and play a few clips from Gavin Newsom and a few others. Let's see if I can find this here. Okay, hang on. One moment. All right, let me play a Gavin Newsom clip here. This here with this little cunt is having to say, and we're gonna play a few others as well. Okay, let's go to it.
I called for him to come out, take a look for himself. We want to do it in the spirit of an open hand, not a closed fist. He's the president-elect. I respect the office. We have a president of the United States that within 36 hours provided a major disaster declaration over a text. We had support from the president. Take a look for himself. We want to do it in the spirit of an open hand, not a closed fist. He's the president-elect. I respect the office. We have a president of the United States that within 36 hours provided a major disaster declaration over a text. We had support from the president of the United States, Joe Biden, with 100% reimbursement, all the resources you could hope for or imagine, constant communication. I'd like to extend that to the president-elect. I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt and reservoirs. The reservoirs are completely full, the state reservoirs here.
Okay, so he says he has no clue what he's talking about. He does then specify the state reservoirs. Let's go.
In Southern California, that mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us.
Mis and disinformation. In other words, he's completely lying. And you know, when people say that, they try to be a little dodgy. They try to say little things. But the reality there is, Michael Malice has talked about being truthful but not honest or something like that, which is you can say something that is true, but it's not really honest about the whole situation. So is that true? Okay, specifically state reservoirs, perhaps. Okay. But is it true that the reservoirs are not, or they're empty? Let's keep going.
Responding to Donald Trump's insults, we would spend another month. I'm very familiar with them. Every elected official that he disagrees with, very familiar with them.
We do know, though, from reporting here locally that that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation.
Now he's going to get the investigation. Here we go.
To understand what was happening with that local reservoir that was not a state system reservoir, which the president-elect was referring to.
Okay, so now he wants to parse this where Trump is incorrect because Trump was referring to. Now, did Trump say state reservoirs, or did he say reservoirs were not full? Because you can just say the blanket reservoirs and be fine with it. Now he being Gavin Newsom is being specific about state reservoirs. So he's trying to pull a fast one over when we all know this is the problem. Look, get the fuck off the radio, get off the TV, do your job, and maybe we'll be able to atone for some of this. But
as it relates to the Delta and somehow connecting the Delta smelt to this fire, which is inexcusable because it's inaccurate.
Is it inexcusable? That's the investigation we need to see. I think the inexcusability is the fact that the reservoir was completely barren. Barren.
So incomprehensible to anyone that understands water policy in the state.
Okay, this guy is just an utter and complete buffoon. So let me keep going. I have a bunch of different bookmarks here of different clips I want to get to. Oh, here we go. Maxine Waters. That was one that she had talked about. Now she's on with the incomprehensible Chris Cuomo. So let's play this and just see what this is.
I agree with you. About Democrats or Republicans. Get the information up on the screens. Where can you go in Altadena? Where can you go in Pasadena? Where can you go in Malibu? Where can you go in the Palisades? Where can you go in San Fernando Valley? They don't know. They're looking for help, and that's what we should be dedicated to.
I agree.
And you too.
We are doing it. We will continue to do it. I think you are right. However, it can also be seen that you don't want to talk about the politics because it's on your party, because the mayor and the governor are Democrats who arguably should have had the people in Altadena better prepared for this. They should have the resources more available so they don't need me to put them up because the state has been doing the work. And that if they've been preparing the situations for wildfires like they were made aware of, instead of cutting deals with PG&E and insurance companies, they would have prepared the state. That is not unfair criticism. Is it too soon? Maybe, but the questions are real.
Let me tell you something.
How is all of a sudden Chris Cuomo asking correct questions? This motherfucker couldn't get shit, and it's his problem. I'm playing this clip here specifically to see what this old hag has to say, not Chris Cuomo, but what's her name? Maxine Waters, okay? The fact that Chris Cuomo can't get his shit together, now he's suddenly asking good questions, but he wasn't doing them before, is exactly the issues I've talked about with Patrick McDavid of hiring a malpractice journalist in general here, okay? This is the problem I have with him. Now he's asking good questions. He wouldn't do it before. And why not? Well, because his brother was involved and he was
I'm not in the business of protecting anybody. And I think that my work over the years that I've been involved, have been absolutely on point in dealing what has to be dealt with in order to help the people. First thing you got to understand is services cost money. And we should be willing to get the richest people in this country, the richest 1% that is protected, make sure they pay their fair taxes so that we can have the money to provide the services. With that money and with those resources, the people who have been selected or elected to do the job should do the job. I don't care who it is. It could be Democrat, it could be Republican, it could be whatever. But the fact of the matter is, we all should have heavy hearts right now.
Okay,
Instead of
I
this
agree with
business
you.
about
this motherfucker. So here's a problem you have with that, which is this area. Okay, maybe you say, oh, North Carolina, they come through, they have this giant hurricane coming through there. Maybe in the Appalachia, maybe there's an earthquake, and there's something down in the south, and it's all these poor people, and they didn't fucking pay enough taxes. This is Pacific Palisades. We've talked about the property tax it pays from your house value that is paying towards this. This is not an issue of the rich. This is specifically an issue of the richest paying their fair share more so than in normal. This is California. The rich pay a ton of taxes. And these motherfuckers down there in Pacific Palisades, they don't seem to fucking care about this, but this old bitch, she seems to want to complain about that. Let's get to that. We can, to the thing. I also heard that Bass, I want to look at this real quick here. I want to make sure I get your complaints all in line. Okay. They hired more than 2% of Rainbow firefighters while reducing the overall LAFD workforce. Yes, we can talk about that. Mayor Bass is truly a fish out of water. Mayor Bass, like Nola Mayor Cantrell. Yeah. A crew can steal billions like Madoff and Bankman-Fried. And only one person goes to jail. Yeah, and only one person goes to prison. Yes, exactly. I also heard that Bass has shady ties to Scientology. Possibly. By the way, I want to talk about the new TV shows I've been watching. We need to do a full segment just on that, and we're already at an hour, so maybe we'll get to that a little bit. We can literally see the Palisades Reservoir is empty. Yes, it's empty, but you say that, Jordan, but remember, it is only that's a local reservoir. It's not a state reservoir, so... Stop protecting the fishes. Newsom, okay. God, I hate Maxine, even though she has a point here. What is her point, AG biochemist? What is her point that you pay for... Because it doesn't make sense. Her point doesn't make sense in comparison to the reality of the situation, which is you're in Pacific Palisades, you're in Malibu, Santa Monica, all this high. It's on the coast. It's this very, very rich area. These people are paying through the nose on property taxes. They are paying their fair share. And you would expect them, and I could see this from their point of view, at least, like, hey, I pay for services. I should get those services. I go to the country club. I pay extra for this. I get extra for that. I'm not getting jack shit. And maybe as something you can think, well, okay, tell you what though, your policy has been that your money that you pay doesn't go for you. It goes for those poor and the homeless, the $24 billion that has been spent on the homeless here in California. Your money goes to take care of them. So why don't you fuck off? Maybe that's the reality. I don't know. It seems a bit harsh, but maybe that is. Let the damn Californians pay the money. I think they are, but you're right, Dwayne, which is Biden has now said he's going to come. I mean, look, this is the kind of shit that we talk about with Ukraine, we talk about with Israel, all the money going out to these foreign countries, add just ridiculous amounts of money, keep them for your own. Right? At least, and it should be this. It should be California. We have our own money. We take care of ourselves. Okay, now we can't. Well, then let's go. And now we look to the country, take care of it. We don't stop fucking giving all the money away. Okay, that's no one's believing her hair. Impossible to take her. All right, cough. Western North Carolina. Hurricane Helena. Yes, I'm with Flanders. Insurance is just a form of gambling. I don't know who Flanders is, but Glenn Beck does say that as well. It is a form of gambling, but you are doing that with your house too. So if you have insurance, I'm gambling all the time. It's a risk assessment, but it's a much better risk. By the way, I do this. I buy, my wife and I recently, it was a few years ago, we bought a new refrigerator. Okay, when we did, we bought it through Home Depot. I bought it through Home Depot and I got the extra insurance on it. It was like an extra $80 or so. No big deal. I'm not thinking anything of it. The compressor goes out. The compressor goes out as 13 months, and the old insurance, warranty on a year had Ned Flanders, simply Simpson drives. Okay, the insurance had gone, or the warranty had gone out a year, but I bought this extra insurance, and they replaced my entire refrigerator for free. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty sweet. I don't really care about the extra money that I'm spending. You're saving a few $100s or whatever. So I bought a new range. I did the same thing. They've had to replace a few things there. I bought a new washer and dryer. I pay for a little bit of extra insurance, and I get like a 5-year extension on this. And, because products just aren't made the way they are. That's the gamble, right? You are, of course, paying a gamble, and of course doing that. And I don't have a problem with that. Okay, so let me see. I wanted to go through. There was a few other videos I wanted to do here. Let me see. Newsom, her, this bitch, no. Man, there's a really good Schellenberger, but it's like 7 minutes. I don't want to go through that. Let me just go through this one here. So here's the water being let out, just literally like I don't know, maybe 3 miles from my house. This was back in 2023, but this is constant. We see this on the dam here. So let me just see if I can extend this out. No, it's not really showing it. Okay, see this road up here? This is called the Dam Road. This Folsom road here. The dam goes. I rode my bike up that shit all the time. Anyway, this is just the water coming out there. They're not doing anything to to save the funds, save the money, save the water going out. This is another great little item here. This is Trump. I'm sorry, Trump. This is Obama.
You got to run through the tape.
Exactly.
I'm confident you're going to be an outstanding mayor of LA.
Oh, thank you so much.
But as you know, you got to run through the tape.
Exactly.
So you got a little more work to do.
Exactly.
But I'm really proud of you and grateful for your friendship. More importantly, grateful for the service you've rendered all these years and all the stuff you're going to do in the future.
Well, thank you so much. Your support means the world to me, and it means the world of Los Angeles. Thank you so much.
Love you.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. So the one, look at how stupid this is. This totally arranged. He's on the phone to her. They're not obviously recording it. They could just do it like on a Skype type of thing or whatever and record it that way, but they don't want to do that. So they have someone recording them, and then they have to edit this back together and come to. It's just the most ridiculous scam that's going on here. That's what you have. So there's that. Let's see what else. Celebrities who lost their homes. I don't think I want to look at that one. Gavin Newsom on this other pod. I mean, this is just embarrassing. Let's end with this one. Let's end with maybe with. Let's take a look here. This is
fires. There's two ways these fires start. It's homeless people and it's.
By the way, Michael Schellenberger, who ran for governor in California, is more of a lefty. He works for Public. It's like Barry Weiss's company. He did a whole thing on the Twitter threads that were, the documents that got leaked out there, or the Twitter actually released out there, the whole investigation. And I would encourage you to check out the Zuckerberg interview with Rogan talking about kind of similar stuff. But he does a breakdown this as well. And he talks about the fires starting in California by the homeless. And I think it's they statistically have it at over 50% of the fires in California are started by the homeless. So that's a problem. $24 billion from Gavin Newsom. That's an official number that has gone nowhere to a lot of NGOs in the state. It's a fraud situation to be spent on homeless. Nothing is being done. Let's listen to hear what
ways these fires start. It's homeless people and it's power lines that fall over in windstorms because the infrastructure is decrepit. The homeless is fixable. The power grid is fixable, and you've chosen to focus on the LGBT community and the bullet train to nowhere in Merced. You can't run things this way. You can give people jobs based on their sexual proclivities and their skin color and their ethnicity as long as the jobs aren't important. It could be a vice president. It could be the mayor of Los Angeles. These are pretty important jobs, pretty highfalutin jobs. And I would not care if every single one of them was manned by a black lesbian. I would not have any problem with that whatsoever, just as long as none of that factored in to them getting the job. All you heads who live in the Palisades, who voted for Karen Bass and never stopped patting yourself on the back because we have the first African-American female as a, right. She's in Africa collecting beads and your house is burning down, and you want to know what's going on. You don't know what's going on? You elect incompetent people, you pat yourself in the back, you look at his progress, and then we get fucked.
All right. Jim says here, I'm originally from Riverside. Okay. Most of my LA friends left Cali years ago, except for the one in Pasadena. Yeah. I mean, I'm in California. I feel I'm stuck here. I was stuck here at least until my kids, because I divorced and years ago, 15 or so, and we had kids together. And she was working in California, and I don't want to move out of California and coordinate where she's going, because I'm not going to be without my children, and she's not going to be without her children. So we'd have to coordinate together, and I'm not moving out of state. So we're just here, and then I got my career here, and I got remarried, and then you have kids, and so I'm here. And I do feel somewhat stuck, and I'm not necessarily complaining about the state, although I am. So you've got that issue going on, but even with that, it's like, okay, I want to move out of this state, but the state is different. Okay, so I feel for you, Jim. I understand. I have friends. I have a friend down in. I have relatives down in Newport Beach. I have a good friend out on the coast. I have another one in San Diego. My daughter's down in San Diego. It's just it's a fucking crap heap, but we need to get out of here as well. So yes, there's a lot of problems. Yeah, JC, a Sunday episode. Yeah, I got the career here. Golden handcuffs. Okay, I don't know what's going on there. Does Newsom's political career recover from this? Look, I am never one that's going to discount a liberal and their political career based on inappropriate behavior, totally demolishing a state. I hope so. This guy is a glorious piece of shit, right? Glorious. And, nothing came about more definitive than a few things, which is playing, Adam Carolla here. Carolla does an interview with him, I want to say 2013 or so, when he was, assistant, what is it? He's not the governor. He's the vice president, but what is it? He's not the governor. He's the co-governor. I don't know, vice governor. There's a name for it, and I'm just not thinking of it. And he was all about homeless. That was going to be his big project. And then he gets in as governor, and he's just demolished his own record with that. So, you would think that this would be the downfall, but it doesn't happen in California. It doesn't happen in liberal states. As a matter of fact, you get, here's what actually happens, which is a situation like the fires, a big dramatic thing where they didn't solve the problem, and now they get a complaint about the infrastructure, what needs to be rebuilt, and then somehow they turn a loss into a win for themselves, and it happens over and over and over. And you would think that his political career would be a wash. Now, the only way that it may be is you are seeing, look, there's been other things. Schellenberger broke this down as well. He was a big thing on climate change, talking about rain and talking about rain pattern. Joe Rogan just was talking about this too. Rain patterns for the last multiple hundreds of years. And you're able to see that where we're at right now is climate is actually cooler than it has, and we're and rain changes, right? And weather patterns change. So blaming the climate, I just don't think it's going to work anymore on this situation. One other thing, Mel Gibson said this too. He's like, look, you put a glass of you have a glass of water and you put a piece of ice in there. The ice melts. The water displacement doesn't go up. Okay. So think about that when they're talking about your, and try that yourself, okay? About the water levels rising, okay? So this game isn't really working anymore, I don't believe. Is it going to pay dividends for someone? Are the rich people that are losing their houses, a lot of them with a lot of say? I mean, you can go through here, the celebrities that are losing their houses. We can walk through that actually and say, are these people going to then blame Gavin Newsom, or are they going to be blaming climate change? And climate change is an easy one to blame simply because you don't have to at all have any accountability. Climate change is an easy one. So here you go. People who have lost their homes in the fire: Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Milo, I don't know who this is, Mel Gibson, he talked about that, was on Rogan, Barbara Corcoran, I don't know who that is, I don't know who this fag is, Melissa Egan, whoever she is, these people, Molly Baz, whoever that is, Leanne Ford, Brian Greenberg and Jamie Chung, don't know who they are. John C. Reilly. Now you're talking about one of the great actors of our generation. Step Brothers. Come on. James Woods. We just talked about him before. He lost his house. Now, he didn't lose his house. He went on the news crying that he lost his house, and then it came about that it actually did not lose his house. But I have a problem with James Woods. I love him for being a conservative. I love him for standing out in Hollywood. But when he goes on and there's Twitter comments of him saying, kill them all, and he's talking about the innocent people in Gaza. Now I'm supposed to be concerned about your little shanty in there, in there. Mandy Moore, Rob McElhenney. I mean, come on. Always Sunny, you feel bad for him. Brad Paisley, even though this is Bray Paisley, and Kim Paisley, his wife. I think it's his new wife because he cheated on his old one. McNally House in Altadena. Colby Smulders and Taryn Killa. I don't know who that is. Eugene Levy. I mean, come on, Eugene Levy. He's the guy that caught the guy fucking a pie in American Pie. Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Brody and Leighton Meester. John Goodman. I mean, these are Denise Crosby, Duff Goldman, Brian Greenberg, Billy Crystal, Ricky Lake, the Ricky Lake, lost your house as well. Spencer Pratt, Anna Faris, Chris Pratt's ex-wife. That's horrible. Diane Warren, Cameron Matheson, before and afters. That's just sad. Anyway, so there you go. Will he lose his career? I don't know. I hope he does. Global cooling is greater contributor to human misery, perhaps. I always thought James Wood was an annoying shill. I like him at Brule's Rules for your house. Look, James Woods, fine actor and everything. I mean, could be. Okay, last thing I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to go. I'm going to talk about, and I will get to Patrick Bet-David. I have to get to him later on. I mean, he fucking, CoffeeZilla did a breakdown of his, it starts with the H-1B visas. Patrick Bet-David then discusses how his defense of his multi-level marketing, which he doesn't defend because he can't, and he's a shill. And then I'm going to play CoffeeZilla breakdown of his multi-level marketing, which is brutal. And then CoffeeZilla does an interview with him, which is even more brutal. And my basically revolution out of this is revelation, is that Patrick Bet-David, what he does now, perfectly fine. But don't get enthralled. I think people like Dave Smith, even Clint, it's kind of weird. Clint Russell, Liberty Lockdown, some of these others, they get enthralled with the idea that this guy is a spender, he's a baller, he's got money, and that's how Patrick Bet-David projects himself. Fine, but how did he get this money? He got it from rubes like you. No offense, Dave Smith and Clint, but he got it from rubes like you, thinking you're gonna be ballers, doing a business of this sham, getting tons of money off of you, of a multi-level marketing plan. It's no different than Amway. It's no different than some sort of pyramid scheme. He got money off of you. Now he's got money, right? He scammed people. Now he's got money. And now you give him credibility because he's got money and you think it's great. And then he hires people like Cuomo and you think that's all perfectly fine because he knows more than you because he's rich. Okay, he was just better at scamming people than you. And that is part of the problem here that we have. No offense to the part of the problem, people. But Robbie the Fire, you fall into that line as well. So I will break that down. Now, what I want to do first here, before we go too far, Dwayne says, I have no use for Hollywood. I haven't watched a movie since Titanic. I only watch local TV. By the way, I truly believe we are in the golden age of television. I haven't been to a movie. Last movie I went to, I think my wife and I went to, fascinating story, was Get Out. Okay, now, premise of this movie, it's Jordan Peele, or one of those guys that did it, and it's a kind of a horror movie. It's a black guy who's dating a white girl, and the white girl is very liberal family. They're all Obama this and that, and they're all happy. He goes to visit her, and something's wrong, and I'm going to give the spoilers away, which is they are taking black people and somehow being able to take their minds and transfer the white people's minds into the black bodies so the old people can be young again. And it's kind of weird, okay? And anyway, so that's kind of the premise of what's happening, and it's fascinating. I went and saw that movie with my wife. Now, we live in a pretty white neighborhood, but for some reason, as we're leaving the theater, this is how long ago it's been I've been in a theater, as we're leaving the theater, there are multi-race couples in front of us. And it literally, this happened. There was at least 2 black guys with a white girl. And I'm like, oh, because she tried to kill him in the movie. And I'm like, oh, this is hilarious. Okay, I haven't been to the theater since then. Okay, but we're in the golden age of television with streaming and platforms that you get. And I've watched recently multiple shows. I don't know where you are. I mean, I fucking spend the money here. I do. Amazon Prime. Now, once again, I get these things and then I share them with my kids because there's 6 of us in our family. Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, which is Disney Plus and ESPN. There's probably another one we have. Peacock, because I do cycling as well. And then recently, I've had this for a while, which is Apple Plus. My brother-in-law was like, oh, you got to check out this show on Apple Plus. It's called Slow Horses. Now, I go, okay. So I went and checked it out. It's Gary Oldman, who I think is a fantastic actor, The Professional. I don't know if you ever saw that with, years ago. He's a dirty cop, but he's a fantastic actor. And he's somewhat conservative, right? So that is a show, and I'm going to describe some of these shows I saw on Apple Plus, and then we're going to get out of here. But, because I do recommend some of them, and I think they're fascinating. Slow Horses. It's for these MI5 people in, the MI5 is like the CIA of the British, and it's people that fucked up in the government, in the MI5. A guy does something wrong, and so instead of firing him, they send him to this place called Slough House, SLOUGH, Slough. But since they're the fuck ups, they call them the Slow Horses. Now, Gary Oldman's in charge of them. So that's all the fuck ups. So it's interesting because it's the fuck ups trying to do stuff, and they're always pitted against the main MI5. And MI5, CIA, think of that, as far as this term goes, they are just batshit bad. It's just bad. And this show portrays them as such. So it's interesting, and it's interesting TV, but yet it's always the same thing. You've got your terrorists and you're trying to solve these problems, but half of the time, or more likely than not, the problems are stemming from these bad systems, the deep state having problems. Okay, so I recommend that show. They have 4 seasons. Slow Horses, Gary Oldman, fantastic actor. It's your typical, gonna save the world type of situation. Now, when I was on there, I saw that. I also checked out a few other shows. And this isn't an advertisement for Apple Plus. I just was like, this is why I haven't even done shows lately, because I got so enthralled in watching these shows. Silo. Now, Silo is very similar to Fallout. Now, if you watch Fallout, it's a video game you can watch on Amazon, but it's similar to that, and it's the main chick for Rebecca Ferguson or something like that, who's the mother in Dune, okay? And one, smoke show, even at her age, but it's kind of dystopian future, and there's 2 seasons of that. I love that. I had fun. Bad Monkeys was another one with Vince Vaughn. It's a stupid show, and once again, but the one I just watched caught me off guard to the point where I watched it twice. And I didn't know they released it like 3 years ago, and had, these shows, they do like 8 episodes, like, 45, 50 minutes straight, no commercials. and it's boom, 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 8 episodes, and that's a season. They did that. And then there's 3 years blank. Now, I didn't know that, but they released in the next one, this next Friday, they're going to release the full episode or season 2. It's called Severance. Now, it's got Adam Scott, who was in Parks and Rec, and it's the most fascinating show I've watched in a while, and it could be just me stupid, but the idea is they are able to bifurcate their brain between your work brain and your home brain. So you go to work, you go down this elevator, and boom, and suddenly you don't know anything but what you've experienced at work, and when your home person and your work person are completely severed. Now, there's issues that involve there. There's moral issues with that. There's, you go home now, there's someone who's reintegrated and he's got both brains and he's, trying to call it out, and it's a cult type of situation. Anyway, I found this completely interesting from a moral perspective, just a whole scenario, to the point where I watched the first season and then I haven't been having dreams about it. So it's just crazy shit. Okay. Andrew, thank you. Found out and subbed to this, Tyler. Thank you, Andrew Jacobs. I appreciate you joining us over, and thanks for the money. I do appreciate that. Nice to see you again, JC. Oh my God, hi, Xerox. He has Rumble, but as usually his YouTube chat is more active. If you're talking about me, yeah. Wait, hang on. Similar story with how Vivek made it big in pharmaceuticals. Okay, Rob, I appreciate that. This Nick, I have a Rumble. I do, and we should. Okay, now I see that Xerox is saying that. I do have a Rumble. I don't know if I'm streaming to Rumble. Just go to Rumble, type LPR, and you should be able to find me. And also, I should be able to get your stuff going there. I think we're broadcasting to Rumble tonight. I hope so. Maybe, maybe not. Nice to see you again, but usually it's chat. Thank you for that, JC. As always, I'm gonna check it out. Tyler, thanks. Just subbed to this, Tyler. Thank you for that. American Primeval, where's that at? Dr. Anik, let me know. Get all my entertainment on YouTube, history, and live streams as where you should go. There hasn't been a good show since All in the Family. Now, you think I'm gonna argue with that, Mr. Bunker? Edith. Meathead, all those things. Look, Archie Bunker is a great show. All in the Family. Archie Bunker's Place was a follow-up of that. So I do agree with that. But look, there's some good TV out there. I can't deny it. There hasn't been a good show. Those were the days. Yes, I want to have lawyer dreams. Okay, you guys. Anyway. I just prefer Rumble on mobile, but I'll chill here for today. Thank you, Xerox. I appreciate that. I will make sure that we get up. I'll give you guys a tip here for Rumble. I'm sorry, for YouTube. So I listen to a lot of stuff, even live shows while I'm doing work. And Scott, I don't think he's in the chat tonight. Same guy who wrote The Revenant. Okay, I'll check that out. I do Scott had asked me, I think the other day on the Tower Gang, because I do produce that show, if I had finished my house stuff. Look, I tore out, we had a leak with our washer dryer. I fixed all that. I had to tear up the flooring that I just put down. And then I ripped out, because I'd taken out this door to our laundry room and we didn't have a door there, just a door, the door frame and the door jambs. I took the door jambs out and then I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to redo this whole thing. I don't want to put door jambs in. I want to make it just look like a walkway, right? So I had to, corner bead, I had to drywall, mud it, do all that stuff. I finished it, painted it, textured it last night. But when I do these kind of projects, I often am listening to something in my headphones, and often I'm listening to a YouTube show. Now, the problem is you listen to YouTube and it's your phone's in your pocket, you bump it. Here's what you can do. You take your YouTube and you swipe up so it's a little screen. Once you do that, I close it, and then I have my headphones connected to it, and I do a thing where I can tap, and I tap once, and it starts to play whatever was there. You can play your YouTube with your phone locked by doing it that way, just so you know. You minimize it, you click it. If your headphones are set up to do those kind of active things like that, boom, you're good to go. Handyman lawyer is wild. I am a handyman. Floors, about done. I'm putting baseboards back in where I had to rip those up. Next project is going to be in the laundry room. I want to put a butcher block countertop over and then redo some things. So I'm working on that one. Some of it is just like, I'm not great with design, so I'm always telling my wife, you got to help me with this figuring out. I will do the work. I don't always know what's... before you swipe up, you can listen in the background as well. Yeah, you can. Thanks for that. Okay, everybody. Maybe once again, I want to give a big shout out here to our boy that gave some money, because I mean we had a goal tonight, and $1.99 wasn't it, but I do appreciate Andrew Jacobs giving $1.99, big donation, big shout out to him. Let's go here to the applause. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me your feedback. I'm on Twitter at Tyler Yonke. Follow us over there, and also, DM me stuff if you have show stuff. Friday nights, that's usually when we come about. It's been, during the holidays and stuff, it could be difficult. I will be getting probably a midweek show. I'm going to try to do this Patrick David during the week, sometime this week, because I've got everything queued up for it. And anything you need to know, we may still have to do with peace and love, a goal, like Leslie to accidentally click on something. All right. I agree. Bye, y'all. I want to do one more thing. I'm going to play this on the outro like I played it on the intro. This is unbelievable from the fire chief lesbian in Southern California.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or, you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Okay, I just want to throw that out there, that's maybe the most ridiculous one. When your house is burning the fuck down, do you care if the person looks like you or not? Absolutely not. The fact that this lady thinks that that's an issue is the most ridiculous thing you could ever think of. Second of all, I don't care what you look like. Yes, I'm not in the wrong place if my house is burning down. I am in the wrong place if my house is burning down, but it's not necessarily on my fault, or just the fucking fact that I'm there. And there we go. So, wow, correct. We will see you guys next week. Later.
Yes, I can hear you. So the family with the poor little girl who was...
Fire happening right now.
Say that again?
Why is there a fire happening right now?
There are multiple fires that are taking place.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're the news though. You're supposed to know.
Well, I don't know how it started. We don't know how it started. There,
I think
winds.
It's all the gay people in LA.